thank you everyone for being here. It's been a busy couple weeks. We're really excited about the legislative opportunities that will make a huge impact for this community. So thank you for joining us. We just wanted to take this time to do as much of a kind of in-person event as possible, to really first thank everyone for the effort that they've already put in. As of this morning, more than 11,000 emails have been sent to the House and Senate on these two bills, which is incredible. And we've reached almost nearly every senator, I think 46 at this point, and nearly 419 members in the House of Representatives. So really incredible start, a lot of more work to do. But just wanted to start with a big thank you to this incredible community. Before we dive in any deeper, I wanted to give the floor to Brian to also say a welcome and hello, and then we can go from there.
And before I do, Danielle, I just have to ask, are these shows behind you knowing Eap Grant?
All right, Brian's calling me out. No, I am in my childhood home and removed all childhood photos while talking to him leading up to this phone call. Thanks, Brian. I know my secrets aren't safe with you.
Never. So I've seen some of the names that flashed up on the list of people that are on the call, and I know that this group is a group that will have lots of questions, and two, will be incredibly involved in the ultimate passage of these bills. So I'll keep my remarks short so that we have more time to answer questions. But I think, as everyone hopefully saw, the introduction of these two bills was intended to be the beginning of an effort to really fix glaring errors at FDA and NIH that have prohibited us from having real pathways that are actually funded and accessible to obtain promising therapies well before the actual conclusion of the entire clinical trial process, which, as we all know, can take years. Now, it is important to acknowledge off the bat that these bills do not fix every problem. There will be more bills that we're working on and that we hope to work with the Association MD and others on to actually implement larger systemic changes. But to me, at least as a person living with ALS, these two bills are incredibly important to fulfill the promise of hope now, access now, and possibility now. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Danielle to kind of walk through the bills in a top line level. I am a bit under the weather, as you can hear in the voice, and so I will talk less and listen more, which is probably a good thing for everyone.
I don't think that is ever true, but thank you, Brian. And please, as you have questions, as questions come up, we will be looking at the chat. So please feel free to post it there. I just thought it'd be worth spending a couple minutes at the top giving a brief overview of how we see these two pieces of legislation filling some of the gaps that Brian laid out. I think Brian very well laid out the rationale for why IMALS was interested in these kind of legislative solutions. The biggest one being time. How do we urgently get access for people living with ALS to promising therapies when we know that they're safe and there's some level of effectiveness proven? And so that's in different ways, that's what these two bills do. To start with 3872 in the Senate, introduced by Senators Braun, Murkowski, and McSally. This bill creates a new pathway at FDA for provisional, quote unquote, provisional approval of a drug or treatment through, and what it does is, the idea is, again, when something is shown to be safe and shown to have some level of efficacy, a drug sponsor can apply for this pathway and actually get a provisional approval stamp from FDA that would allow this drug to be paid for as the legislation lays out, so that it wouldn't, private and public payers, insurers couldn't deny coverage of this bill based on the fact of the treatment, based on the fact that it is still continuing through a clinical trial. It is still investigational in nature because of that, but that it has met a standard that says for diseases where, and pandemics actually, where there is not another treatment available that will extend or save lives, this pathway is available. An important aspect of this bill, in addition to providing earlier access to promising therapies, is that data is going to be collected on the back end. So for any therapy that is provided in this way, there will be a registry of information for us to better understand, for the scientific community, to better understand both that particular treatment or therapy and understand broader therapies for the treatment of ALS and other diseases. So that is the kind of how the Senate bill would kind of fill the gap that Brian laid out. The House bill, introduced by Jeff Fortenberry and Mike Quigley in a bipartisan manner in the House, House Resolution 7071, fills this gap by doing two things. One, creates a grant program at the National Institutes of Health that would allow either drug sponsors from small biopharmaceutical companies or the trial sites running clinical trials for a drug or therapy from a small biopharmaceutical company to say, we want to provide an expanded access program, a way for people living with this disease to get access to the therapy outside of a clinical trial, and we can't pay for that. And so this grant program in year 1 and 2 would be authorized through this bill at $75 million. And in year 3 and 4, after a report to Congress, kind of evaluating this pilot, a report that would be generated by researchers, clinicians, drug sponsors, patients, people at the FDA and NIH, would go back to Congress and say, this is what's working, this isn't working, before it would be expanded in years 3 and 4 to double that at $150 million. But the idea is, for a treatment right now that has been shown to be safe and would qualify for expanded access programs through FDA, there might be a barrier of cost. And so this would eliminate that specific barrier for more people living with ALS, and as the bill is written, and other rapidly progressing neurodegenerative diseases to get access to that therapy. The other part of the bill gets to a bigger fix at FDA. In the 21st Century Cures Act, which passed in 2016, there was a provision that allowed for the creation of centers of excellence for specific diseases. This has been done in oncology, and what it provides is a kind of one place where, or a consolidation of the expertise at the FDA that is dealing with applications for new drugs and biologics for related to oncology. And what this bill lays out is to do that exact same thing for neurodegenerative diseases. So the scientific expertise can be accessed by the patient and advocacy communities, by drug sponsors, by researchers in one place. And it really allows for those who are dealing with applications at FDA related to, in this case, neurodegenerative diseases, to really understand where the science is going, what trial design innovations have been put forward. And so we're not kind of reinventing the wheel with each new therapy that's going to the FDA, but really have a pathway where that is already understood, and we can hopefully expedite the process for applications for treatments for ALS and other neurodegenerative diseases. So that is how we are thinking about and talking about these two bills. Brian, did you have anything to add?
I think there's two small points that are really important to make, because I've seen a lot of the questions or comments about this on social media. The first is the new EAP grant program that Daniel described. Um, one of the co-sponsors has already put in a appropriations request for an additional $75 million. And the reason why that matters is that means that we will not be robbing Peter to pay Paul. And what I mean by that is many people are worried that if we fund an EAP program, that will diminish the amount of money that NIH has to spend on basic science. This is saying no. This is saying that there is a pot for basic science and an allocated pot for the expanded access program, so it is A plus B, not A minus B. And that is a really important thing for people to know. And then the second thing is when you look at the promising pathways, one of the biggest issues with Right to Try was that there was no mechanism by which either insurers or the company had to pay for therapies. And here, the bill actually provides that CMS has to cover a therapy that is given provisional approval, and then insurers on the private side cannot deny it solely because of that indication or that marker. And so those are really big steps forward and really critical things that we thought were important to have to ensure that we don't simply repeat the mistakes of the past.
And the one important piece on the funding side that I didn't mention in relation to the House bill is that it also allows for the use of the foundation at the NIH to be able to accept and raise funds to also fund this program. So there is a mechanism by which the National Institutes of Health can accept outside money to be able to fund specific projects and programs, and written into the bill as an allowance for this program to do just that. And so the idea is obviously taxpayer dollar, federal money should be going to kind of the broadest and best use. We think this is one of the broadest and best uses given the caveats that Brian just described. But in addition to federal money, being able to bring in outside funds as well is really important. So that was built in to address the financial side of the costs of that bill from the start. The other thing I see in the chat is a question about when these will be voted on. We are really excited about both of these bills being introduced. We know that from the IMALS side and from other organizations, many of the advocates have been already pushing to get co-sponsors and to get broader support for these two pieces of legislation. That hopefully isn't a long process, but that is the next step in the process. So we have to show broad support from members of Congress for the 7071 and broad support from senators for 3872 in order to get them kind of voted out of committee and bring them to the floor for a vote. So that, again, hopefully that isn't an incredibly long process. I think the House and Senate caucuses that have been set up are a great leverage point to start to build a broad support. But there isn't a way to predict when these would be voted on. The best we can do right now is to show really broad support and get as many congressional champions excited about these two pieces of legislation as possible. But I will, Brian and I want to make sure that we answer any questions you have for us, but more importantly, we're going to be turning over to those who lead the efforts every day, and many of you work directly with them in Krista and Nicole, and they're going to give additional ways that we can build that support. So I want to make sure to give plenty of time to that, but if there's any kind of pressing questions for Brian and I'll take one more look at the chat before turning it to Krista and Nicole. All right, we will answer anything else that comes up, but that is kind of how we see this, but more importantly, those who work on this every day know the numbers and members of Congress and their staff better than we could even imagine to. Krista, Nicole, turning it over to you to talk through how everyone can get involved and continue to build that support that we need so badly.
Okay, well, thank you, Danielle. So some of you may know me. I'm Krista Thompson. I work with the Legislative Affairs team. And I just want to thank Kathleen and Brian and Danielle for setting this up, because the Legislative Affairs crew, we've been working really hard along with a lot of people on this call to get in touch with Congress, our members of Congress, and our reps and our senators to let them know, someone brought up in the chat, when is it going to be voted on? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this step of trying to gather support and co-sponsors and the tools that are already available for people to take those steps. And what I thought I would do first is just let you know I am a caregiver to my husband, who was diagnosed in December of 2018, and I live in Rhode Island. And we are in this fight along with everyone else, and feeling the ebb and flow of it. So that's a little bit about me, but I know you're not here to listen to my story right now. What I would like to do first is show you, if you were coming at these bills, kind of first step, first touch, how you would use the tools on the IMALS website to get in touch with your member of Congress. So I am going to share my screen. If you, I think Kathleen, I think you can share it, or let me just, give me some permission to share my screen here. I'm just going to share the IMALS website, and as that kind of works, I think she's bringing it up. This is something that I did initially once these bills were introduced, but also just to let everybody know that, oh, there it is, great. So if you go to imals.org, the website, on the top, there is a banner that says take action to make access to therapies real. Once you click on that banner and you scroll down, there are 4 great steps that enable you to contact your congressman or congresswoman regarding the House Bill 7071. And if you wanted to, and click here to contact your rep, it brings you to a pre-populated email that allows you to write to your member of the House of Representative. It aligns with your House district. And I did this, on the very first morning. You can change the text where it says, "Dear elected official." I just added in a little bit of my personal story, and you can change the text, but it's pre-populated. And once you put in your information, as soon as you click send this note to your elected official, it goes to that congressman or congresswoman's inbox, and the office's inbox. And these are the numbers. And we were talking about, the 11,000 emails that were sent. We are tracking it, and we can also track it by which reps are being contacted and which senators are being contacted. And that's incredibly helpful, because I'm going to talk about why that is, how we can use that as advocates moving forward. So if you wanted to kind of go back now to see some of the other steps, there is, well, step 3 you've all done, so thank you very much. And then step 2 is to contact your senator regarding the Senate bill 3872. And again, it's very similar to the pre-populated House email. It takes you through, and the language is obviously specific to each bill, but we want everybody to tell their stories and have their individual connection with their member of Congress. That's a super important part of this process. And then step 4 is how to keep taking action with us. And we're just going to click there, and that will bring you to some other things I don't think there we go. We won't spend too long, but this brings you to a page in general, and all the legislative work that the legislative affairs team has been doing. There's a map of all of our caucus members. So that is, I wanted to first show everybody, and again, there are more steps here, that these resources are already available. So please do not reinvent the wheel with this stuff. Use the website, use the resources, but also wanted to make the point that everyone on this call is already an advocate, whether you're advocating for yourself in this disease, or someone you love, or someone that you've lost this disease. You've already shown that we advocate for ourselves every day. So what the legislative affairs team, one of the things that we want to let everyone know, and Nicole's going to speak to this too, you don't have to do it in any specific way, as long as you're, just doing the work. So what we've done, and I did this initially, I just want to share this. I used the resources on the IMALS page and asked about 10 to 20 of my friends, I sent an email and asked them to send the pre-populated email. And then I used that based on however many of them sent the pre-populated email in support of the various bills. I used that information to contact the legislative health aide in my rep's office and said, can you, let me know, I think you're going to be hearing about this bill, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about it, and getting the rep to co-sponsor it. And it provides a way to have a conversation, because a lot of the people that are involved in this call have already done that first step of sending the email. But I think what's important to us on legislative affairs, at least in terms of how we approach it, is every single person in this community can be a captain of a House district. They can take the lead in a senator's office and be a point person for this legislation, but also future legislation, because the legislative team, we have people from all over the country. We really do believe in the every community approach. That's kind of our mission, in making sure that everyone has a voice, so that when my representative hears about a bill regarding ALS, I want them to say, well, let's reach out to Krista and ask her about it. I think that is like a long-term goal, but I think these two bills in particular, it's a good way to kind of start building those relationships. So I'm trying to keep it, I'm paying attention to time because I don't want to take too much time, but if anyone on the call is interested in joining the legislative affairs team right now, we have weekly calls, or if you just want to kind of dip your toe in the water and find out, I don't want to be on a call every week, but I'd like to stay engaged in the advocacy process, you can always send Kathleen an email. You can send me an email. I'm happy to share that after the call, and we can just get you working in your district to advocate for these bills. There are a lot of resources available, but I would say use the tools on the IMALS website to help you kind of start building I always say, like building your tribe, or get your people involved in calling and emailing, and then you can use, the work that you're doing to make contact with those offices, because that's how these relationships get formed. And once, a lot of you actually probably already have relationships with your reps and senators, better than anyone else, once those relationships happen, it gets easier and easier to ask for co-sponsors. And then the other thing I will just like to add before I turn it over to Nicole, or back to Kathleen to introduce them, I think it's going straight to Nicole. I would just also like to add, you don't have to be an expert on legislation to advocate and ask for co-sponsors, because there is, you can always ask us for information or for help, and no one's ever going to be an expert on everything, especially when we're, trying to care for and fight this disease. So there's only so much time. So I like to say, don't let not always knowing exactly the right answer to every question stop you from talking to your reps and your senators, because as far as they know, you are the expert, and we can always help you answer questions. So, and they work for us, and they should be on the side of making our lives better. So I'll get off my little soapbox right now, but we'd love to have anyone help out with the legislative affairs team, and we will not, you can do it as much or as little as you want. And I hope I didn't miss anything major. Please shout or write, write it in the chat, and I will, I'm going to hand it over, I think, to Nicole to talk a little bit about some things that she's done over the last couple of years to advocate for legislation. But thank you for inviting me and letting me talk, and it's great to see all these names and faces and people I know and some that I don't. So Nicole's smiling away, so that means she must be ready. All right, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Nicole Simbura, and first off, let me thank IMALS, Danielle, Kathleen, Brian, Krista. You guys are all amazing, and just so pleased to be able to work with you. My role today, well, let me quickly introduce myself or tell you a little bit about myself. My husband, Mike, was officially diagnosed with ALS in January 2015, and obviously forever changed our life. And sadly, he passed last March. So we were in this battle for about 4.5 years, and quickly leaned into, our representatives, our senators, trying to get them to understand a lot about this disease. This by no means was in my wheelhouse before, so many of you guys might be thinking that same thing. I can't do this. Yes, you can, okay? They're here to work for us, okay? Remember that. They're elected officials, and I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends over the last couple of years are like, well, I'm nervous about reaching out to them. I don't know what to say. And I'm like, just be real, just be you and share, and so I would try to do things for my tribe, for my community, to make it easy for them. And the first thing I would always do, it would be send out an email, like Krista was saying, that she had sent out with the links to her friends. And so this roll call piece that we're using is just so simple, right? So your friends, it's a way for them to dip their toe really easily. They do it, they're getting back to you. Like, I've had probably about 25 friends that have done it this week that I know of, and they're like, done. So then I can take that information, follow up with an email to my health aide, right? And I've got to say, I've expanded my group. So I'm not just working with Representative Jason Crow, I'm working with people all over the country. And you guys have been kind enough to let me reach out to them on maybe your behalf, right? So it's just about building those relationships. We have to remember they're human. They put on their pants the same way we do every day. I know we have this idea like, oh, they're, more educated, they're smarter, they know the routine. They want to hear from us. They want to build those relationships with us, and that is key. So, for example, I went back and sent out a follow-up email. Hey guys, just checking on, for example, HR 7071. Where are you guys standing, or have you had a chance to look at it? So today I heard back from Sherry Lou in Representative DeGette's office, and she said, I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm going to. And so I responded back to her just real quick saying, thanks so much, Sherry Lou, for that info. If I don't hear from you in a week, I'm going to follow up again. And so so she has that seed, like, hey, I need to make sure that I really look into this bill. All right. Then next week I'll follow up with her, but then also I might put out to my friends, hey guys, can you tweet this out? Can you put it out there on Instagram? Can you just say, hey, Representative Perlmutter, where are you guys standing as an office on this bill, right? So, most likely we won't get a response or anything, but it's another contact. Someone else in their office is seeing that, whether it be a Twitter feed or whatnot. Then maybe week 3, if they still haven't signed on, I can be a little persistent. I will send a group text to a whole bunch of my friends, and I will say, okay, guys, I haven't heard anything back. I need you guys to call their office. All right, so I'm going to have you call Senator Bennett's office and Senator Gardner's office, and I'm going to ask for support of Senate bill, and sometimes I'll just put S578, the ALS Disabilities Insurance Act. I am asking for your support, and that's all they have to do is they call and they say that, but I give them the phone number. I have them call both the DC office and then their local office too, and I will put that information right there in the text, and my friends love that, because if they're driving to work in the morning, if they are dropping kids off at practice, they can quickly call on their phone to say, hey, I'm just calling because I want Senator Gardner to support S578, the ALS Disabilities Insurance Act, and we go from there. Then that fourth week, I'm following back up again with that health aide saying, hey, just following up. I've noticed you haven't signed on yet as a co-sponsor. What questions do you still have? Why have we not seen your support on this yet? So those are I kind of take things at a month at a time and just see where we are, but knowing that I'm always following up. I have built my own spreadsheet that I keep. So as I'm adding new constituents who are like, yes, you can reach out, to Representative Green in Tennessee, for example, on my behalf, I'm keeping a list. And what I just did with the health aide there, and I just added like the dates that I'm actually contacting them. Really, I probably should have done that sooner, but just always going back and keeping that in the loop. And then most importantly is these guys want to be thanked. They work really hard. I mean, their staffers are unbelievable, and they are handling all sorts of issues. So the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease, right? So we want to make sure that we are thanking them and we are shouting that out. So I don't care if it's, Deb, I'm going to use you as an example. Deb's on this call. I noticed that Representative Neguse signed on. He's here in Colorado up north, and from District 2. And I put out there on Twitter, thank you so much, Representative Neguse, for being an ALS hero, supporting 7071, right? I want all of you guys to do the same thing, because our voices together matter to them. And it shows them that we are listening and that we are caring and we are thankful for whatever they are doing. ALS, it doesn't affect one party or another. And we need all of them to lean in and help us. So it doesn't matter, what your affiliation is or anything like that. Remember, they work for you. So if you are, a Republican and your representative's a Democrat, it doesn't matter. Build that relationship. You can still, befriend that office and such. I know when I was working on Right to Try, and there are times where, it would come back around, because sadly, bills don't always get passed into law as quickly as we would like, is I had built such great relationships with those offices. I would call, and whether I was calling from my phone or maybe one of my kids are calling, they got to know our voices. So they'd be like, hey, Nicole, how are you today? So just building those relationships with the offices, guys, are key. And if you need help with that, please reach out to myself, to Krista, anyone on the Ledge team. Would be more than happy to help. If you want to set up a Zoom meeting with any of these guys, we're happy to do that too. Like, hey, do you have a few minutes? Can we talk about, say, the ALS caucus, whether it be on the Senate side or the House side? Or if you just want to have a better understanding how we do it, I know any of us would be happy to walk you through it. So, questions? Comments? No? So, Kathleen, should I turn it back over to you, hon?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much, Krista and Nicole, for kind of walking through that and the different ways that we all can kind of act together moving forward in order to pass both of these bills in the most urgent way as we can. And I think that what we've hopefully done is, on the webpage that we shared with you all, empowered you all with the information that you need. If there is ever a time that you feel like you don't have enough information in order to contact your legislator or in order to kind of answer some of those questions, please reach out to us. I think that we are always trying to look to make sure that you all have what you need. So I know that we have, with that, I will follow up with this email and a couple of the things that we talked about, a direct link to the pages that we reviewed. And I also will be able to post this recording. So if you ever want to come back to kind of reference some of the points that Danielle and Brian talked about at the start of this call, you'll always have that. But with that, wanted to kind of open the floor to anyone that has found additional ways to be successful in building congressional support for a particular bill. I know that many of you on this call have done this for a really long time and are experts at it. So we'll just open up if anyone has some good points of advice to give to anyone else on the call here.
Well, and Kathleen, while folks are getting their thoughts together, I would just say, I've been answering some questions in the chat, but as additional questions come up for this bill, please reach out to us on social media or directly. We'd be happy. I mean, we're not experts. We're still learning as well, but let's find the answers to those together, especially if these are the questions you anticipate others who you reach out to get involved would have, or that members' offices would have. So let's get as many answers in one place as possible. As Kathleen said, we had prepared some kind of top level talking points, which are useful for an introductory conversation. You don't really need much more than that to get started. I know Krista and Nicole sound like experts, but they weren't when they started either. They just have figured this out by really caring about the different policies and agenda and legislative pieces of legislation that have come up, and they've figured out kind of how to navigate this system. So start small if this is new to you, and these bills are important to you, and ask questions along the way. I know the team is here to help in any way they can, and we will continue to build out ways for folks to get involved. We'd love ideas, even in this time of virtual existence, to feel like we're getting together and kind of storming the hill virtually and making a difference. We are happy to do that. I know other organizations are putting up ways to get involved and ways to back one or both of these pieces of legislation as well. We will work with anyone to figure out a way for this broad community to make an impact, because we do make a bigger impact together. So we are excited for those ideas, ways to work together, and ways to bring in even a broader set of advocates to make a difference on these pieces of legislation. Again, the goal for our involvement is to get earlier and faster access to promising therapies to people living with ALS, kind of period and full stop. And we will be just as supportive of any other idea that does that as well. So, and that, like I said, and that we, not at the expense of anything else, but we really hope that we can, as Brian says, walk and chew gum at the same time, and kind of push for things that make a difference on research, but also really push for things that make a difference for people living with ALS today.
And let me underscore one thing Danielle said there. The community organizer in me hates the fact that we talked at you for the last 45 minutes. So when there are going to be lots of questions you have right now that you weren't able to ask, there are going to be questions you have as you read the bills, email them to us, and we will do our best to put together FAQs. We will do our best to answer them publicly, because the more empowered you are, the better off we all are. And to be honest, the bills that exist right now could change, and there may be really good suggestions out there from people that we need to incorporate. So speak up, be heard. These bills are your bills. This fight is our fight, and we need everyone to be a part of it to make it real.
Well, I don't think there is a better place to end I'm not seeing any other questions pop up, but like Brian said, this is the beginning of the conversation about this effort, not the end of the conversation. And we look forward to having that with all of you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.